Good afternoon. We just finished Sefer Bereshis. And whenever you finish something, especially one of the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, or we finish a Yantiv, we finish something in Kedusha, we have to realize that we have to take something out of it. We don't just move on, okay, now let's start Sefer Shmos. Every year, again, Sefer Bereshis, and then we forget about it, we go to Shmos. No. Every time we finish something, we should use the opportunity to think about what can I take out, at least one thing from Sefer Bereshis. Now, Sefer Bereshis has a span of 2,500 years. The Gemara says in Bava Kama, if somebody wants to be a little better, a chassid, even more than that, is Yikai Milad Avos. He should learn Milad Avos, or he should do Milad Avos. What is Avos? So some people say you should learn the Sechta Avos, which is a blueprint on how we should live. But on the other hand, Rashi says Milad Avos is also Sefer Bereshis. Because the Avos are there. It's not a story. It's not just stories that the Torah is telling us. The Torah is telling us something that we should learn from the Avos, exactly emulate them to somehow a degree that we can, and so that we should better ourselves. And that's what the Gemara wants to say. So what can we learn out of Sefer Bereshis? So I took one thing out that I feel is very important. And when it says B'nai Dan Chushim in Parshas Vayechi, Mefarshim ask, B'nai is a Lashon Rabbim, but he only had one son. He only had Chushim. So why does it use a Lashon Rabbim? The brachas from Yaakov Avinu were very similar between Dan and Yehuda. Yehuda, it says Gur Aryeh Yehuda. And by Dan, it also says Gur Aryeh. So there must be something connected over here between the two. Dan had one child, and we know that this child unfortunately could not hear. And in those days, who knows, most people probably put them away, they could ignore them. It was a child. But Dan understood that he's going to only have one child, and if this child becomes a nobody, then one of the Shvatim are lost. So he put his whole energy, he put his time, he gave him time to make sure he turned out into somebody special. To the point where we know later, Chushim was the one that killed Esav. Mamish for Kedusha, to save embarrassment to Yaakov Avinu. So he understood. He was part of the gang. He was part of Klal Yisrael. And that could only be done when parents put an effort and do the right thing when it comes to a child. I heard an incredible story about this father that a son comes over to him, Motzei Shabbos, and he says, Tati, he says, I decided to go off the derech. I think it's okay for me. It's not that important, all this stuff. I think off the derech looks like it's a lot of fun. I think I'm done with this. I just want to go off the derech. And the father stunned. He didn't have any inkling that this was in his mind. And he starts to plead with him. So first he thinks about himself, we're going to be embarrassed. And then he starts to think, look what all the time I gave you and the money I spent on you on tuition and all that. And then of course he realizes it's not going there. That's no way to go. And he says, listen, he says, you got to understand, as you'll grow older, you understand the godless of being a yid and to have children. And the son says, this, no, nothing's happening. Nothing's going to work. I'm done. Father doesn't have a choice. He says, well, I hope in the future you'll come to your senses and you'll understand that what I'm telling you now is really the right way to go and the right way to do. And I hope this happens as soon as possible. The next morning, the boy gets up and he goes to shul, and the father figures, all right, maybe he wants to daven one more time. Goes to yeshiva, and he goes to night seder. Monday, the same thing. He wakes up in the morning early. He goes to daven. He goes to yeshiva. Comes late from night seder. Father says, oh, what's going on here? Tuesday morning, he goes to daven. He comes home and it's about breakfast, and he goes over to him and says, Chaimel, I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy that you decided to stay and to understand. He says, but what happened? What's going on now that all of a sudden you decided not to go off the derech? He says, no. He says, I'm off the derech. He says, but what do you mean? But you go to yeshiva, and I'm so excited now that you go to yeshiva. He says, you go even to night seder, so you're spending all your time in yeshiva. He says, I'm so proud of you. He says, Tati, do you realize that this is the first time that you told me that you're proud of me? This is the first time that you're acknowledging everything I do, and to explain to me and to give me time and to be proud of me. You never did this before. It's only when I'm telling you that I'm going off the derech, that's when you feel it's now that I'm not off the derech, now you have to be a father that you should have really been before and given me a chizuk and to tell me how proud of me are. That's a tremendous, tremendous lesson. A lesson for every parent, every father, every grandfather, because there's a chiyuv of chinuch by a grandfather as well. B'nai Dan, Torah is telling us, he turned Chushim into an unbelievable person. As much as the rest of Klal Yisrael had all those children. In fact, Dan had many, many more children later in the cheshbon of Klal Yisrael. But there's a tremendous connection between Dan and Yehuda, as we said. David HaMelech, our Mashiach, his mother's name was Nitzeves Bas Adel, the wife of Yishai. And the whole story of why David HaMelech was sent away, it's a whole long story, not for now. But the bottom line is she was a tzaddikus. And she was from Shevet Dan. So our Mashiach, David ben Yishai, comes from Yehuda, Gur Aryeh Yehuda, and by Dan, where it says Gur Aryeh as well. Because it takes two parents to make a David. It takes two parents to make a Chushim, and the time and effort of putting into a child is so important. And just incredibly, the word Chushim, the way it's spelled in the Torah, is the same letters as Mashiach. Because Chushim was a grandparent of Mashiach ben David. So we should be zoicher that Mashiach should come. We should be smart enough to understand that we have to put time and effort into our children, and that's the greatest gift that you can give to them. Thank you, and hopefully this brings Mashiach.